group chat to tell them to be quiet.
All right, I'm super happy I let the intro play before I introduced us. So welcome to Blake Street Banter, where one of us knows what the word banter means and the other one is along for the ride. Noah, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. We just watched the Broncos go off the clock, take Bo Nix, next quarterback in Broncos country. What do you think of that?
I'm a big fan. I'm very happy. We could definitely dive into that for a long period of time, but let's talk Rockies baseball here. So
no. Give your thoughts. Bo Nix is a terrible pick, and why?
Oh, nah.
Bo Nix is a great pick compared to what the mock drafts had going. I'm really happy we didn't go the J.J. McCarthy route. Obviously, he was picked before Bo Nix, but I'm glad that wasn't an option for us. And I think that will prove to be a great point in the long run. Noah, what do you think?
Yeah, I love the pick. Throughout the process, Nix has been the guy I wanted. I knew that Daniels was going to be too early in May, and they were always going to be the top guys. I never wanted J.J. McCarthy. I don't get the appeal on film, and I asked people on Twitter, like, what's the appeal? And I never really got a good answer. But Nix and Sean Payton have been linked for a while now to like match their schemes and how Nix is comparable to Drew Brees. But I'm excited because we haven't taken a quarterback in round one in a long since Paxton Lynch. And I mean, I'm pumped to. I mean, I'm happy.
Paxton who?
What'd you say?
Paxton who?
Paxton Lynch.
Oh,
way back.
I don't recognize that name.
Yeah, you got cut from the league in like a year.
Yeah, it was Penix or Nix for me. We got one of the two, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was. I would have loved to trade down and maybe get a second round pick, but I'll take it. We got the guy I wanted, so I can't complain.
Yeah, and we got Zach Wilson backing him up, so all things are good.
Yeah, we got all the QBs.
All right, so let's revisit the hot takes from last week. Do you remember yours, Noah?
Yeah, so there was 7 games, but we accidentally predicted a 6-game record. But I remember I predicted 4-2, and we were able to go 3-4, which is an improvement. I think we split the series with the Padres, which was super exciting. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But then my other prediction was that K-Free would pitch a quality start. And I think the day after we recorded, he went on the injured list. So that one did not hit.
Yeah. I also predicted that we would win both series. That obviously did not happen, but we were at least competitive, which is an improvement. I said Vodnik would get his first save, and instead he got lit up a little bit. So that didn't come to fruition, but it is what it is. So at least we're playing better ball.
Yeah. And I think revisit the games a bit. Fridays got rained out, and then Saturday you get blown out. You lose 7-0 and get dominated by Luis Castillo. It was nice to see in the doubleheader on Sunday, won the first one 2-1 off that Rymack walk-off ground out, or I guess they gave him a single for it. But then you got smacked around and you lose 10-2 in the nightcap. And to alternate games with the Padres, I thought was good because you head into Mexico with all the momentum after their win of the year so far. I don't know if you got to catch most of that game. That was amazing.
Today, Thursday, the 10-9 win, that was an exciting game. Like, that was a lot of fun to watch offensively. Obviously, you hope, pitching would do better, but like, these are the games I prefer where we're at least in a barn burner and putting up some runs and kind of grinding it out a little bit. So today was much more exciting than what we've seen, especially from the offensive side. So that was great to see.
Yeah, and a little fun nugget on and go Nuggets tonight, by the way. the Rockies offense. In their 7 wins, 6 of the times they've scored 7 or more runs. So we've gotten tacos on them. And then, of course, the 2-1 win against Seattle on Sunday. So that's pretty interesting. We win when we score. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
I got another little tidbit. Hold on, sorry. Another little tidbit on a comeback. That was the 4th time in franchise history that they rebounded from a deficit of 5 or more in the 7th inning or later to win.
Wow.
Kind of crazy to think about, like only the 4th time in history.
And they've played a lot of games at Coors Field.
Yeah, I mean 30 plus years worth, right?
Wow.
And I mean, talk about Hunter Goodman's jack.
Oh yeah. Your mom's favorite player went yard, 440 plus feet. That was smoked.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the better part of the games, for sure.
And they were able to get them back in it after that home run because they were down. They had only 4, and then they end up, the 3-run jack pulls you to within 9-7, and then kind of just rally with 1 out and 2 outs there. Elias Diaz coming through with the big double.
Yeah, the Elias Diaz double with 2 outs, that was obviously the game-winning hit, which was fantastic to see him come up in the clutch. Brenton Doyle, that's my huge positive. I mean, guys over 300 on the average. He's a huge positive for me. If he hits for average and plays the quality of defense that he obviously is capable of, sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron's hot take is getting better by the day. Today, out of the 2 spot, Brenton Doyle last year basically hit in the 9 spot exclusively. Today, he went 3 for 4 with a ribby and a walk, so he was on 4 times, stole 2 bases, and yeah, like you said, the glove is always going to be there. And he really hasn't even gotten that many chances to show it off yet this year, but that when he gets called upon, he'll do his job.
No, he's carrying the load right now. Nolan Jones, day-to-day with the injuries. What's our take on that?
I mean, we talked about it a bit last week. Sometimes when guys go out with an injury, it's a good refresher, but that was with Chris Bryant, and now we're talking about Chris Bryant hasn't resumed baseball activities. That's pretty concerning. But with Nolan, sounds like he'll be back in there, hopefully for both Mexico Series games, because as we'll talk about in a bit, those are going to be fun. A lot of runs are going to be scored there. I did want to mention another guy that we talked about and you specifically predicted would bounce back. Brendan Rodgers today, 3 for 4. He scored a run, walked, so he was on 4 times, and the average just in this last week of games has ticked up to 228, and it was really low before that.
Yeah, and that grand slam he hit seems to kind of have lit a fire under him, so to speak.
Yeah,
so
and
that was amazing to see.
It was awesome. You're down 3 in one swing of the bat, you're up. That was a catalyst for their win the other night against San Diego. And you think back to last year where he had one of the worst Aprils I've ever seen from a guy. And then I think May 1st, I want to say it was against the Phillies, but that might just be that. I have nothing to back that up, but other than memory, he went, I think, 3 for 4 and had like 3 doubles off the right field wall. When he is swinging with power, it's going to the opposite field. And I was talking with someone the other day when he hit that grand slam. It was so nice to see him turn on an 0-2 fastball and yank it. I think his swing is getting back to where he likes it. And, man, I'm just so excited to see this offense in Mexico.
Yeah, Rodgers turned on an 0-2 fastball up and in and smoked it out pull side. So that was amazing to see. And you could see the relief on his face. It's like a star soccer player that hasn't scored in a while. Like he comes all the way around and he's slapping hands with his teammates. And you could like literally see the relief on his face as he's, slapping guys' hands and he's excited. So that was amazing to see. Obviously, it paid off a little bit today. So hopefully he keeps it going forward. But we'll see what happens. So,
yeah. And another guy that I just want to shout out because it's been a long time coming, Monty, he hit his first home run of the year. And what's up, Skylar? Good to see you in the chat. Yeah, Monty crushed a ball to left today, right down the line, and he was smiling as he crossed home plate. I think these guys are getting. I mean, the stress is coming off their shoulders.
Yeah.
As the best medicine is producing.
Scoring runs. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Monty because he's been putting together great at bats all year.
All right. So looking ahead to the Houston series in Mexico, what are we excited for?
Yeah, well, number one, I'm surprised that both teams are entering this one 7-19. I think no one would have seen the Astros struggling this badly early on, and they tend to be a team that starts slow and then comes on as the season progresses. 7-19 is almost, we're turning the page to the next month of the season here pretty soon. We'll see. Hopefully they don't get it going against the Rockies, but it's only a 2-game set, and the first one on Saturday is going to be Cal Quantrill for the Rockies on the mound, taking on Ronel Blanco for the Astros. And Blanco has been extremely impressive for the Stros. He's 2-0 with a 1.33 ERA. And while Quantrill is 0-2 with a 4.33 ERA, I think he's pitched really well, to be honest. He's been one of the bright spots in this rotation. And we'll have to talk about the bullpen later, too, because there's been a couple of guys that have really stepped forward as we've asked them to do. But in game 2 of the series, it's Framber Valdez for the Astros, and he has a 2.19 ERA. He's doing his thing like he does every year. Versus Austin Gomber for the Rockies, the southpaw. We'll see how he's able to perform because when he's at his best, he tends to be a fly ball pitcher. And in Mexico, that'll be a fun game to play and watch.
Yeah, definitely. I expect a lot of runs to be scored. Quantrill has 3 quality starts, if I'm not mistaken. So
pretty straight.
Yeah, I mean, he's been pitching really, really well. The Houston offense has not been producing the way that they typically have, obviously, and the record shows that. I drafted Bregman in my fantasy baseball league, and I am regretting that every day.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So, it's anybody's game, really. So, Mexico will be interesting. I expect a lot of runs to be scored. Hopefully that plays into our hands a little bit, but we'll see what's going to happen. But one of the other positives I want to talk about today is Hunter Goodman, right? So today he comes up and it's his major league debut for this season. Obviously he's played before in the past, but he came through with a huge jack today. What do you expect from him, and position-wise, like, what are they going to do with him? It's hard to say. I mean, the versatility is there. Obviously, he's a power guy. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, last year he really came on and just he was able to launch some balls over the fence, but he also struck out a lot. And I think he just played outfield while he was up last year. Today, first start of the year, he got his first knock, and of course, it was a big one, three-run jack. And he played right field today. I know that there's been talk of him playing catcher. I don't see that happening in the majors quite yet. But Bud Black might have some fun with it. It depends on what the front office wants him to do. I'm sure that positional stuff really comes down to much deeper than just let's throw the guy behind the plate for fun. But I like you hit a home run, you're in the lineup the next day. Is typically how it goes, and so I love it. In the short time this year that we've been able to watch him, if he falls in a ditch and the count falls behind in the count at all he's going to see is off-speed pitches, and he's going to have to be able to battle because he has a swing and miss. He's got a high leg kick or high load, however you want to call it, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, Skyler, get Goodman in there 5 times a week, first base, DH, catcher. I'll get him in there, however you can. But I like what he brings to the lineup just in terms of power. I thought it was weird sending Tolia down, but then we're going to have him as the 27th man on the roster for the Houston series in Mexico, which is just an interesting thing. What do you think of that?
Yeah, Tolia's probably going to be on the roster for Mexico. But it is interesting because he leads the team in home runs, but his average is not great. Um, and not great is putting it nicely.
He's got 5 hits, 4 homers, though.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's not much else you can do with that. Goodman, as far as the catcher position, so I just want to revisit that for a second. You have Diaz and Stallings, Stallings was a Gold Glove winning catcher. Diaz is one of the best at throwing base runners out, so I don't see Goodman like making away in the catcher position unless one of those guys slips significantly from the offensive side. So Goodman's versatility defensively obviously helps him. He's a huge power bat with some major league experience. So obviously he's kind of gotten it done, and he got it done today. So it's interesting what they'll do with him in the future, especially after having a hot day like he did today. I don't know. It's just really interesting how things will play out. So finally, Vodnik got touched a little bit from the bullpen perspective. What are you seeing from the arm barn, as Aaron liked to put it? What direction is that going? What positive things are you seeing on that side?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, today watching Justin Lawrence come in and slam the door. It was a 1-run game, and in a game that had 19 runs, there was no guarantee that you're going to go out there and get a 1-2-3 inning. And he got help from Tovar on a great play behind the bag for the second out of the inning. But I thought it was great to see him celebrate after he was able to get the save. He pointed up to the sky, and you could just tell that it was more relief than anything. Vodnik, though, he's continued to do his thing, man. I know he finally gave up a run. You're not going to go 162 or however many outings you get without giving up a run. But his ERA is just sitting at 1.65. And I think one of the underrated stories is Molina coming out of the pen. Yesterday, Anthony Molina pitched 3 innings, scoreless. And while he didn't strike out a batter, he only gave up 1 hit and 1 walk. And he had such a difficult start to the season that it's going to take a long time before you can look at the ERA and the WHIP and feel like, oh, okay, like the numbers don't always tell the story. One bad outing can really balloon your figures. And he became the innings eater in Arizona during that brutal series to open the year. But I think it's really coming together, and I just hope that is there a greater test for a bullpen than going from Coors Field to Mexico back to back? I don't think so.
Definitely not. And thank you for highlighting Lawrence, because I don't know if it was last episode or 2 episodes ago, but I kind of ragged on him a little bit about the opportunities he's had. And he finally, in a 1-run game, high-scoring game, he closed the door and he got it done. And I was really happy to see that today. Big sigh of relief, not only from himself, but from Rockies fans as well. So that was great to see.
Yeah, and a game like today is such an emotional game. It can do so much for the clubhouse. I thought the other night when Rogers launched that grand slam, that was going to get the offense going. And then last night they lay an egg, and their 2 runs are 2 solo homers by McMahon and Diaz. But today, scoring 6 runs in the 8th inning and having it be, the 4th greatest comeback in the history of the club is something that absolutely fuels a clubhouse. And, I've said it in the past, there's some days because that they show up to the park and I'm like, man, how are they going to show up after the brutal night before? But these guys continue to show up, and I hope that it doesn't seem like they're going to be getting Chris Bryant back anytime soon. And ideally, Nolan Jones is able to slide in, and maybe Mexico will be the perfect get-right pill for him. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, it's a season of streaks, right? So put an 8-game winning streak together here or there, and it can make all the difference. It's what I'm hoping for, obviously, being optimistic here, but we'll see what happens. So Mexico will be interesting. There is no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think Aaron mentioned it in the chat a while ago. Over under 18 runs for the Rockies in Mexico. What do you think on that line? For fun, I want to take the over.
Yeah, for fun, I want to take the over, but it's probably going to be under. But be some really high entertaining games. It'll be fun to watch no matter what. The record right now isn't where you want it to be. It's just not projected to be very well for the rest of the season, but a lot of time left.
Yeah.
So see what happens.
And I mean, I get just looking ahead at the week before next Thursday, when our next recording would be, they played Houston twice, and then they play a 3-gamer in Miami, and then all of a sudden we record another podcast. So only 5 games this week. What do you think their record will be?
So is it 3 games in Mexico, right?
Just 2 in Mexico, and then they travel to Miami, which historically has not been a very fun place for them to play.
It'll be really interesting to see how the offense transitions from Mexico to Miami. I mean, you go from obviously high elevation to literally sea level, right? Yeah. And then you talk about the Coors hangover and all of those things. Those will probably be low-scoring games. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how they transition and try to win ball games from those 2 atmospheres. So, yeah, I've been optimistic in the last 2 predictions. I just don't see it playing out well from a record standpoint. Like, I'll have plenty of positives to point out on the next pod. But I honestly, I just don't see it working out for us. We're not going to have a winning record.
Yeah. And I mean, leave it at something as simple as that. I think we split with the Astros in Mexico. Yeah. And whatever happens in Miami, we'll talk about next week. We'll leave it till then.
Yeah. I think it's a 1-1 with Houston, and then we probably lose that series, just take 1 game in Miami. I hope I'm wrong, but the way the season's been, that's kind of the way it's going to play out, and it's going to be low scoring in Miami. So,
yeah. And I mean, going along with predicting the games for next week, we might as well just drop our hot takes, player performance wise. Do you want to go first, or I have one in mind, so I can?
Yeah, please launch into it.
I think this is another one where, as long as the guy plays, I think Nolan Jones goes yard 460 feet or longer in Mexico. It's going to be a bomb.
Okay.
That's my hot take.
Great bomb. Okay. I like that. I'm going to go ahead and ride this Rogers hot streak. I'm going to say he bats 400 between the Mexico and the Miami series.
Yeah, I love it. And we'll check back next week. I think you're still up like 1-0 on me. So we're not blazing out of the gates. But
yeah, exactly.
We'll see.
Exactly.
And
so, I hope Rogers keeps it going.
Yeah. And now bring in Aaron, talk some advanced metrics.
Oh, wait. I made a really cool sound effect, but you guys didn't hear it. Dun, dun, dun. All right. What about Bouchard? How many times won on base this week?
Oh.
What do you guys think?
He gets on base twice a game, so we'll do however many games he plays X times 2. That's my
do a little algebra there for you, Skylar.
Yeah.
That is good calculus. I'll sign on to that.
Sign on to that. Two times a game. Love that. All right, so let's talk Victor Vodnik, right? So here's a new segment we're all trying to do. Statcast with Aaron at the end of the Rocks pod with James and Noah. So last week we looked at Tovar, looking at some of those numbers. I think he played pretty well. I think he lived up to kind of his expected numbers. So Statcast still hasn't evened out, so to speak. But Victor Vodnik is the talk of the town. You guys talked about him a little bit in the armbar piece there. I finally got hit around, and just kind of looking at what makes him great. so far this year, as I try to bring up my cheat sheet here, is he is in the top 94th percentile in his fastball velocity. So he's throwing 97 on the regular, which is 94th percentile, right? And then he's matching that with an 83 slider and an 89 changeup. So you're looking at 10, 15 miles per hour difference, which is pretty regular almost from these top tier relievers. What's interesting with Victor Vodnik that makes him way different than the rest of the league is his ground ball rate. I know James has been mad with the Rockies brass a few times. Like, we have these cookie cutter guys, like we have to pitch to the defense that we have, and we have gold gloves all the way around. But Victor Vodnik is getting ground balls at a 61% rate right now. What do you think the league average is, James, in ground ball percentage?
Higher than what he's doing.
No way.
You're not paying attention at all. So Victor Vodnik is doing really good at getting ground balls at 61%. The league is sitting at 45%.
45.
Yeah, 45 if you would have looked at the rundown. But so he's really doing that, and he's allowing hard hits, but he's not allowing any barrels. And I am new to the game, to the barrel idea. I don't know exactly what qualifies as a barrel. I think there's some launch angle and exit velocity involved with that, but he's not letting that happen.
Right. That's exactly my next point. That's what I was going to say next.
What?
Is that he's not allowing a barrel.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you were getting there at his higher. Yeah, whatever. So he's pretty consistent. He's fastball heavy, right? 61% of the time he's throwing fastballs, but his changeup is going, his fastball changeup against left-handers and sliders, fastball against right-handers. And he's keeping both those off-speed pitches down in the zone with that lower action. There's your ground ball, right? So that's playing well so far. And his extension is in the 76th percentile. We hear Tyler talk about extension all the time, making that 97 look a little bit faster. So looking at 98, 99, because he's getting down the hill a little bit more. So that's where he's finding all this up. The thing that I'm worried about is his K rate and his percent rate. In the 16 innings he's pitched, he only has 14 strikeouts. This is a 39th percentile rank. And then his walk rate is in the 33rd percentile. It's a little bit too high right now. With I believe it's a 10% walk rate, which is, you want to be a little bit more around 6 to 8 to be really effective. And the last thing that really concerns me about him, where we might see some regression, is the whiff rate is low. People aren't swinging and missing at his pitches. They're not hitting it well, but they're also not missing. Sooner or later, people time that up, and that comes around to kind of bite the pitcher, so to speak. So Victor Vodnik doing really well right now. He's utilizing his skill set, but sooner or later, how does he kind of adjust as batters are adjusting to him? So the whiff rate, Skylar, is 16.7%. That is the 6th percentile of the league.
It's weird for a guy to have the stuff that Vodnik does and power fastball and have such a low whiff rate. But I mean, we talk about the law of averages, and that has to go up. I'm puzzled. I'm trying to figure this out in my head. And yeah, Skylar, I completely agree with you. You don't have a 165 ERA through this many appearances by being lucky with not, I know what you're talking about with barrels. I can't remember the exact percentage, but I know the exit velo has to be 95 because that's like the mark for a hard hit, 95 and above. And I mean, like you broke down, he knows what pitches work against lefties and righties, change up to lefties, slider to righties. It's the most effective way to get outs. And if that's simplifying the scouting report for hitters, then sure, you might not whiff as much, but I think there's no possible way that number stays the same, even if his ERA balloons. Maybe he starts giving up, a couple more power, gappers, or one goes over the fence and it goes over the fence, but something is going to give here. It's just weird that it's been weak contact.
Yeah, it's a sample size thing. So like we're just gonna have to wait and see, I guess, if it's intentional or what. But weak contact, like that's good. I'm not gonna say just because whiff is on the lower percentile that's necessarily a bad thing. It's weak contact's what you want, right?
Yeah. So I'm trying to calculate his plate appearances. Like it might be, I don't know what the sample size number should be before you kind of like see like a trend. Like this is what a pitcher is. But he's 55, 65, 68 plate appearances in 2024. So 16 innings, 16.1 innings pitched, 68 batters. Hopefully that makes sense. So like what are you thinking? Like 20, 30 innings pitched in a year, in a season, where you kind of figure out what you have, and like the traditional numbers you have to be a little bit concerned about in relievers because they can blow up in one outing. So
yeah, I want to say about 35.
Like, because what like a typical reliever season is what, 50, 60 innings?
I mean, a typical good reliever might only make 50 appearances or even less.
Right.
On like what leverage situation they're in.
I mean, yeah. I remember during Holland's best year here and Wade Davis, I think they went out there. It might have been 65 plus times.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. A lot. And that's when you're winning in the ninth. So you have to be a good team. But
if he keeps pitching this way, like he's going to be a 7th or 8th inning guy, maybe even 9th at the end of the season, depending on how things shake out, right?
Right. And yeah, we saw Jake Bird pitch 89 innings last year. He pitched in 70 games.
Yeah. That seems like a lot for a reliever.
That is definitely he got burned out. That was definitely the high end as the outlier.
Yeah, like I don't think that's something you want from your arm barn.
No, not at all.
Ideally.
Not ideal at all. So
I was watching the Dodgers game last night, and
cool. Congratulations.
All right, thank you.
No, what did you see?
They're 17 and 11 right now, and they have used their bullpen more than anybody else in the major leagues, which was really interesting for me to hear. So I don't know what that means.
I don't think their starters don't go more than 5.
Yeah, I mean, like their arm barn, they're just running through them, man. So like I don't know how sustainable that is for an entire year, but it's just like really the Dodgers are just burning through their bullpen. So
yeah,
for what it's worth, whatever.
I think. Should the Rockies do something kind of like that? I know we're at our kind of market.
Let's do a 6-man rotation. See how that works.
Or an opener where they can only go 4 innings. That one. What do they?
Yeah, 4-man
allow people to go
4 innings.
That was
a starter A and a starter B.
I've been on the train for an opener in Colorado since the Rays made it popular that one year. They did it, and I know Aaron. Like I know you don't want that. Which, like, I don't know. I'd be so interested to hear both sides there, but
I would need to see some data. I mean, if you look at the Rockies starters, 70% of the runs that they're giving up are in the first inning, like just a ballpark. So, like, if you do an opener, like they still have to pitch their first inning sooner or later, right? So, like,
yeah,
like
I don't know though that the start of the lineup is the most dangerous part on like every team. And the mentality is just that you get that out of the way so the starter doesn't have to face them later in the game. And then all of a sudden your starter's pitching in the 5th or 6th inning. And instead of these guys seeing them for the 3rd time, they're seeing them for just the 2nd time. And like you always hear, like you never want to have your arm face, or I mean, maybe not, but you never want to have a pitcher face the same batter 4 times because by that point they've figured out what's happening or have a high chance.
I get that. I agree with the idea, but essentially that's isn't that what the Dodgers are doing in reverse?
Yeah.
Right. Like, all right, you're going to go out there, you're going to go through the lineup 2.5 times, and then we're going to go to our arm barn and we're just going to use all the guys that are doing their thing.
Yeah.
No, so like, but like the Rockies can't even get through the rotation 2 or 3 times. Like the lineup, like they can't even get that far.
Yeah, I mean, maybe James is onto something. 6-man rotation, bring back Chichi Gonzalez, and we're good.
Chi Choo Choos, huh?
Yeah.
You Jews.
Let's bring in the Chi Choo Choos. They need to bring up Riley Pint. They need to bring up Dugan Darnell. They need to bring up Michael Cook. Like, there's too many guys down below that they can just
Pint's been going crazy with the strikeouts.
like just let him come up.
The stuff has never been in doubt. It's
command.
Can you just throw some strikes, buddy?
It's worth throwing a dart at a dartboard at this point, though.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly. I don't know. Well, the Rockies are going to Rocky, right? So we'll leave it at that. Hot takes. You guys did a fantastic job. We'll see what happens with Victor Bodnik and is that whiff rate. Maybe look at that in a month or so. Somebody hold me accountable, and we will go through. See you next week, I guess. Right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, James, do your thing.
All right. Go Rocks.
Woo!